Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, love?
Oh, pretty good. End of my working week.
Yeah.
May have had an adult beverage or two. It's pretty good.
So you're lubricated. Your throat's lubricated, ready to go.
Somewhat, like I was talking about this with a friend of mine. Is previous to COVID, I used to be a reasonably big drinker. Loved my craft beers and my rums and stuff like that. And then just COVID killed it for me. Like I stocked up big time.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I'll just stay at home in my dressing gown, play PlayStation, have a few drinks, be fine. Drinking by yourself is sad. Yeah. It's real sad. So I just stopped. And it's weird. I've got a liquor cupboard that I've barely touched in like 2 years.
Yeah. Do you want to? Are you asking if I want to come around tomorrow afternoon? Is that what you're saying?
You're not taking my adult beverages. They're mine. I'm hoarding them.
I saw in a comment on one of our videos someone saying that they looked up Jon Stewart and Dipper last night, and
I told you not to.
I see Jon Stewart puts on Twitter today, "Holy shit, guys, Dipper is trending. I'm bawling again. Thank you so much." So come on, chat, be honest. Who looked it up? Who looked up Dipper and Jon Stewart? So I'll be honest to see who actually. I'd be interested to see who actually looked it up. Yeah, it's been a big old week. It's been a crazy old week actually. Today we got no coverage of this tonight, but just to recognise today. Fiso Collins's public memorial was. Apparently it was huge. It was being live streamed by all the news channels as well. And I look back now at all the fuss that a sector of the community was making last year about what Parliament's shutting down for a week. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And it's like actually half of Parliament was there. So he wasn't just a first term politician. He was a friend and a colleague and a known by all. From the work he'd done in the community. So really nice to see he got a lovely sending off today. Very sad that they had to do it. Then, of course, there's Newshub as well. We thought we'd do tonight is open up Discord. We haven't done this for a wee while, but I thought we'd open up Discord and give everybody a chance who wants to come and have a chat. That'll be in the second part of this first hour, and it'll be one of these nights where if you guys want to talk for a bit, we'll talk for a bit. If you don't, we'll have a shorter show. We'll also do a giveaway. Anyone who comes and chats with us through Discord, we'll do a giveaway. We'll get one of the new merch t-shirts out to one of you who joins us in Discord. I won't put the Discord link up just yet. It'll only go up into the YouTube. I can put it up into all the chats, can't I? Wherever you're watching us, I'll put it up into all the chats because YouTube Discord links seem to kind of time out quite quickly, even if you ask them not to. So probably in about 20 minutes, I'll put a link into the chats. And then if you want to come and join us on Discord, you can. If you're already part of Discord, because many of you guys are like a part of the community there, then and you want to have a chat, just jump into the waiting room and we'll make that happen. So let's say, and then there's some more people today who have signed up. So not everyone's on the billboards yet, but a huge thanks to our patrons. Reminder, if you are a paid patron, then this weekend, Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m, there is a virtual meetup. You're looking at all the numbers of Chewy. These are all paid patrons. It's like if everyone turned up, it would be quite a difficult thing to happen. But we are actually, you know what? We're probably almost getting to a point, Chewy, where we can do some travel arounds. Do a meetup in Auckland, one in Wellington, one in Christchurch. We've already had one in Dunedin. Okay. But we could do that at some stage. We should definitely plan that out. So if you are one of our paid patrons, then if you'd like to come and join us on, when I say us, I mean me. Because like Chewy will have things on, Chewy?
Look, I'm literally on my phone at the moment setting an alarm. So
So that'll be Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. I'm when I say we, it's the royal we. I represent us there. So, and I know most of you want to see Chewy mostly of all, but he's got beers to sink from his liquor cabinet. He's going to be a busy man this weekend.
Saturday, I'll even do the professional thing, and I'll give myself an alarm at
there you go.
1:45.
Let's also just remind you guys that there is a merch drop going on right now. If you're not about us for a long period of time, if you're not sure how we do it, what we typically do is we have a merch drop once a month. You guys get the merch you want to get. Obviously, that helps us heaps. And then we send all the orders off to the printers. They print them, and then we send them out. So we make to order is the way we're able to do this, basically. Reminding you that the Buffer hoodies and T-shirts are in there. People have been ordering some of those. That's basically based on the Margaret Mutu conversation that we had, where she told us that you could, if you were non-Māori in particular, look, if you're Māori, buy them as well, but if you're non-Māori in particular, the way that you can help Māori in the fight that they're in at the moment is to be a buffer between them and the Crown. So that's where that branding comes from. That's brand new. It's basically just buffer branding. There's not really any BHN branding on there at all. There is BHN gear back in there as well, and you can get personalised gear this year. Please remember, if you're going to get personalised gear, that's the personalised hoodie or the personalised T-shirt, you definitely click on the personalised link. A couple of people have clicked on the hoodie link and then sent their names through because they want them personalised. They're $10 more expensive because we have to pay more to get the names printed on the back. That's the only reason. And I will do an order tomorrow. I'll do an order tomorrow. So if you get your order in by midnight tonight, then we'll do an order for you tomorrow and you'll get your first drop of the merch next week. So that is, of course, bhnshop.nz. bhnshop.nz. Do your order by, let's say, 9 a.m. Friday morning, and it'll come out to you likely by the end of next week, certainly within kind of 10 days of now. And the other thing about the Discord tonight, someone will win themselves a $50 credit to the site. Now that means you can either buy a T-shirt or you can put it towards a hoodie and pay $40 more and you can get a hoodie as well. So either way, we'll provide enough for someone on Discord tonight to get a T-shirt or to put it towards a hoodie if that's what you want. We good, Chewy? We done there? Well, Chewy's going to cough. Look at the professional muting his microphone. You know what's going on.
The fucking demons are coming for me.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So there you go. Discord's up there. Good to go. Starting to chat. You want to get into anything before we start chatting? Should we get straight into the week that was? Or
let's crack on. Let's go.
So it's, as I said earlier, it's been a pretty big week. Some very sad news, some very big news, but I think it's unquestionable that the biggest news story of the week has been the cancellation of Newshub. They are still talking about, they're open to other plans. Chewy, I wonder if that scary thought you had last night about Fox NZ, because I guess that means they've got the infrastructure all in place, including the staff, for another five months. So if someone did want to swoop in and buy it all off them, I wonder if that's why they announced it this far out, to basically go, we're closing down, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Anybody out there? So,
fire sale, staff and equipment.
Yeah, going dirt cheap. There's a few things to talk about here, including having a look at the AM show this morning, talking to Willie Jackson. But let's start with the one news story, because there is a flow on from the money issues. Part of the flow on is what's happening with things like the block. Questions around that. If they go down to a skeleton staff, which will mostly be salespeople.
Not the block as well.
I know. But a very embarrassing thing came out today about the Communications and Broadcast Minister, Melissa Lee. She doesn't know what Newshub does. So she made a comment yesterday that literally can't work because it's an entity that Newshub provides news to, and Newshub will no longer exist. It'll be made out very, very clear as we watch the story.
Uncertainty and turmoil are increasing after yesterday's shock proposal to axe news production and hundreds of jobs at TV3. There's also unease over what it might mean for other well-known Kiwi programs and our next generation of broadcasters. Kim Baker-Wilson has today's developments.
It's the day after for Newshub's viewers and its staff.
You've likely seen the news by now that our company has proposed to shut down Newshub from June.
Look, I'm just going to say, how harsh is this? Do you see the time? It's 5:58. This is the very first thing they say on the show this morning. Imagine starting your show and already having this much emotion. So 5:58 a.m. this morning, this is how they opened the show. Not a criticism, just saying, imagine how hard it was if you started a show, then had 3 hours to do, and this was the emotion at the beginning of the show.
On Newshub from June. Some people have been asking, does that affect AM too? And AM and Newshub are one and the same. We're all part of the same family.
A family where about 300 jobs are set to go.
Thank you.
Sparking fears from those at the start of their careers.
See what happens and pray for the best.
Fears over upheaval beyond the newsroom.
It was a shock and a really dark day for New Zealand broadcasting.
And fears for the entire sector.
I was expecting cutbacks, not a complete demolition.
What's set to be taken off the air, leaving the much wider sector up in the air.
The likes of The Block and The Traitors and Married at First Sight New Zealand, they're all at risk and at jeopardy because...
You okay about that, Chewie?
I actually really like The Traitors.
I don't know what it is. I
demolished all available seasons of The Traitors with my wife, the British, the Australian, and the New Zealand, basically the space of 2 weeks.
The thing that's interesting as well, what they're talking about is the opportunities for young people. Now, I came up in radio. I was like the last person hired in New Zealand radio without a communications degree. You know, like most people, unless you're like a Mark Richardson, who they just, for some reason, he's had a charmed life that they just throw everything at. I was like the last person when I started working at More FM in Auckland. And even the hosts at More FM in Auckland were like, how did you get this job? I went, I don't know. I just kind of talked to the boss, and in the meeting, 10-minute meeting, he said, why don't you start working with us? We'll just train you up. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like fun. But really everyone like Chewie after me went through a comms degree, a communication degree to sort of get in. So there's been these kind of chunks of time, like let's say back in the 80s, and radio in particular, same as TV though. There used to be a show called, I remember it from Auckland because I was a little kid, called Top Half. So after the 6 o'clock news at 6:30, it broke regionally, and there was like a news program out of Wellington that did the bottom half of the North Island. There's one out of Christchurch, I think, that did the South Island, or maybe just half of the South Island. And there's one in Auckland called Top Half, which is where Judy Bailey and John Hawkesby started off. And that was when everything was localised. Radio localised every year, 1ZB, 2ZB, 3ZB, 4ZB. Everything was localised. And then in the 90s, the radio went through this kind of transition where they started to network. And so 1ZB, 2ZB, 3ZB, 4ZB became News Talk ZB, and basically got all driven out of Auckland. And that's when I kind of came into radio, right, where they had the networks going on. And then COVID hit, and a whole bunch of those classic hits breakfast shows got taken away, and they brought Wellington in, and they brought Auckland in. And so there's been another stage. Now, this is sort of the fourth stage of it, where they're going, actually, we can't afford to do anything locally, even if it's nationwide. And communications degrees have been getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Like, so when I kind of started in radio, 2000-ish, there was only just starting, and now it's massive. But that's what you do if you want to do broadcast. You go in, you become an intern for TV3, and then you become a journalist, and then you become this, and you go on the overnight news desk, and these are positions. So this is going to really impact the next generation of journalists, because TV3, Newshub, has 300 staff. You think about how many comm students you went through with, Chewie. It's 300 people. The 300 opportunities now gone from there. Well, so it's just fascinating.
I mean, I was talking about the fact that I started with Samantha Hayes last night. Now, her pathway is she studied journalism.
Yeah.
And as part of her journalism course, got to go up to TV3 for a couple of weeks to kind of intern a coffee run and that sort of thing. And she got her big break because their music reviewer, it may have even been Dave Ferrier, was sick and couldn't interview, I want to say Megadeth, but it was a touring metal band and nobody knew anything about them. And the guy that was off sick, he'd done all the research. It just so happens that Samantha Hayes was a big fan. So she just went very quietly for the back of the room going, I could do it. And that was her big break on Nightline, was interviewing this band and doing a really good job. So
yeah.
This is the thing, is like, yeah, when I came up through radio, it was a combination of it's who you know and what you stick your hand up for, but and a bit of an education. But I know the course that I went on, I chose because it was more hands-on. The other choice in the South Island was the New Zealand Broadcasting School, which was a more formal, theory-based degree structure. But yeah, imagine being the guys in that study line going, I want to be a broadcast journalist.
Yeah.
I want to be in front of a camera, or I want to be supporting someone in front of a camera, just to see half of your industry explode in front of you. And you'd be going, oh, fuck. Because now, you're all primed for the New Zealand market. Do you have the mustard to cut it overseas? Do you look at bailing on New Zealand? It is devastating. There's such a flow-on effect. Like I talk about the traitors. I obviously know a lot of New Zealand comedians. They're often writers for those panel shows.
Yep.
And TV3 did most of those.
Yep, 7 days.
So they were the 7 days and the project and all of those guys, those panel shows had comedians as writers, comedians as regular guests, that sort of thing. For those guys, that's a paycheck. As one of the only consistent paychecks in comedy is to get a TV gig.
Yep.
So that's exploded. That's gone. Yeah, fuck it, the block, take it or leave it. But there's still people that work for it, and I still have sympathy for that. The show format as a whole is a rolling advert, and that's the thing. They're cheap to make because it's an advertisement. And this is the thing, it's those sort of shows that might fund things like the news program, which is incredibly expensive and makes no fucking money.
Yep.
So yeah, my worry is, as the channel carries on, it is going to be low quality, cheap to make, licensed American stuff or licensed overseas stuff, and the benefits for local actors, stage crew, camera people, comedians, that sort of thing, just dries up. And if it dries up, then they go somewhere else and we lose them forever. And when our film industry has got so much steam going, can we lose more people?
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. I also just noticed a comment here from the technician. Says media broadcasting students most likely head overseas now. Well, the problem is this is not a New Zealand only issue. I mean, this is a worldwide issue, and I talked a bit last night about not all media platforms are dwindling; some are growing, and I talked about us. Like we're chicken feed in the world of media when it comes to numbers, but. I did the numbers today. I was just interested, so I thought I'd have a look. Chewy, the week that's just gone, right? 19th to 23rd of February, yeah? YouTube only, because we don't include TikTok or Twitter, because I wasn't doing that back there, because they would make it exponentially bigger. But YouTube only, last week, we got 44,000 views. Have a guess the exact same week a year ago, what we got. Total. This is all videos on YouTube.
Maybe 10,000?
2,400.
Jesus.
So 12 months ago, all clips, all everything on YouTube in the same week, 2,400. 12 months before that, 2022, 942. So you can see that some mediums are dying and others are not. We've gone in the last year for that exact same week from 950 to 2,400 to 44,000 in exactly the same week, only on YouTube. Now I know lots of places out there get 44,000 views on one video, but what I'm saying is you can see growth in some areas, and whilst what we're seeing overseas, back to the comment from the technician, is like broadcast media is dying everywhere, but what is happening better overseas is some people are using this sort of medium and new media. I kind of call it new media because it was new media about 10 years ago, and now they're sort of new media. It's not necessarily new media, it's this new media used in a different way. So I think that there won't necessarily be the opportunity for them to go off overseas. And probably what we need to see is, and we've been talking about this for a long time, this has been freeze frame for a very long time, hasn't it? We've been talking about this for a long time, and one of the issues with what we're doing is you need to actually educate the advertising market how this is a good place to put your dollar. And now with things like Newshub and that, I'm sadly, I had conversations with some of the people you see on the posters today on my Twitter feed, and it's really sad for all of them. Not on my Twitter feed, sorry, on my phone, doesn't matter. but there's going to be money floating around to put towards other things. Maybe this will be maybe as kind of pirate-ish as it sounds, me hearties, maybe the demise of a big thing like that will lead to an increase for something else that's more independent like this. I'm not saying, yay, maybe we'll succeed off their failings, but maybe it will. Maybe those advertisers now are going to have a look around. Maybe the advertising market's going to have to be re-educated, and the mainstream media in New Zealand have not done that. TVNZ hasn't done that. None of the radio stations have done that. Newshub, TV3 haven't done that. They haven't done it right yet. They just really haven't done it right.
Yeah, it takes my mind back to a thought that I had when I was in broadcasting, and I had come out of one of the big networks, More FM and The Edge and all of those guys. And I'd realised that sort of format of broadcasting wasn't for me. And a bunch of my course mates had bailed out of the industry at that same time, and we just decided to set up essentially a little low power pirate station. And at that time, I remember thinking, this is the way forward. Everything's condensed down to Auckland and networked out. Then the response is go small, go local.
Yeah, hyper local.
And hyper local. And essentially, that's what we're doing with news commentary.
Yeah.
Zero budget, super niche. And that's the way we're doing it. And it seems to be working, and people seem to like it. Which is great, but there has to be a middle ground. We've spoken to some of the big guys and gone, do you realize for your petty cash funds, you could have us, you could take us to a bigger audience, whatever. And everybody goes, oh, that sounds great. You're doing great. You guys are doing great work. It's so important. Anyway, got no money. Bye. And it's frustrating. There has to be a middle ground. You can have some really cheap, really good content, or you can spunk a whole bunch of money up against the wall. But yeah, there's an answer there, and it just feels like nobody's found it yet.
Yeah, and look, we said last night that the minimum Newshub salary cap would be $30 million a year. I reckon, Shuey, we'd happily work with someone for, I reckon, $1 million each. You think that'd be all right?
Oh, I could probably stoop to that.
Yeah.
So there you go. My stride for that.
There's the office. There's the offer.
Next
Warner
move.
Brothers Discovery. We'll do it for $1 million each. You know something that's really funny about that? I actually produce about as much content each week as probably 8 to 10 journalists. I do about 70 pieces of content a week. So that's what I'm saying. There's a new way of doing this. There's a different way of doing this, and they don't get it. And the podcasts that you hear from radio stations, they don't get it. And some people are mentioning some names in the chat. I can see some of those going past, like Brian Tyler Cohen, is that his name? And, and a bunch of the American ones. Yeah, that's the model. That's the model we're basing ours on. It's the same for student radio network. Great content, and talent, no dollars. Yeah. All right. Yeah. We should probably, I don't know how we went down that path, but we should probably keep going on that story. Let's keep going. With Mr. Schusterman.
Basically, you have to go to the funding agencies now to bring in the money. They can't pay for them.
Part of the problem, he says, out of date legislation.
The time is up now for the government to stop kicking the can down the road and actually start making some decisions about the future of the production industry and the media industry in New Zealand, because we're out of time.
New Zealand On Air says it started fresh talks with Warner Brothers Discovery. There's $30 million set aside for content yet to make it on screen. TV3 had humble beginnings. Several decades of news making.
This is 3 News.
And news breaking. One of its longest serving reporters not expecting the complete cull.
Probably cut back on the news, like maybe turn it into a half-hour show. Maybe drop it at the weekends.
He teaches the...
Look, sorry, dude, that actually wouldn't save that much money. No. I mean, that's like going, I can drive 500 Ks and stop, or I can get all the way to 700 Ks down the road. Like turning it from an hour to a half hour, like all the same people still have to, it's not going to make that much difference, even though you're apparently a a broadcasting educator these days.
Up and comers of a fragile career.
There are fewer jobs. However, sometimes with this sort of thing, opportunities can arise.
Exactly what his students are hoping for.
It's kind of gutting to hear that news on an industry you kind of want to go into.
It creates a really scary scenario for us new ones.
And ripping out such a huge part of it gets a bit nerve-wracking.
It's scary, but I'm staying optimistic for sure.
That's what Newshub staff are having to be as well.
It's been pretty tough, but we'll get through it.
Through until June, when the studio lights are switched off. Kim Baker-Wilson, One News.
Meanwhile,
just as an
media and
aside,
communication.
Yep.
Imagine working in a place that you know the walls are falling down in a couple of months.
Well, but the other thing is, I won't say who it is, but like I said, someone that's on. I've been speaking to people today because I know them, who are on the posters, and this is what one of them said to me. I'm not going to say who it is, and I'll just make sure I'm not going to identify anything. I'll just say that this person said, "I didn't see it coming, but I'm doing okay." That's all I'll read from that message. Yeah. So they had no idea. Like they had no idea. So that meeting, I mean, I've been in those meetings before, never with an entertainment medium. When I was working selling computers back when I was a student. So we all got called and got asked to stay on Friday night after work and got told that they were bankrupt and the shop wouldn't be open on Monday morning. I've never seen it in the radio, but when you get those kind of all hands on deck, everyone here now for an important meeting, it's never good news. They're never like, oh, by the way, everyone gets 20% pay rise. It's always bad news. But yeah, for the next few months is going to be interesting. I do wonder again if it's simply because they can now see if someone else wants to take it over. You know, I mean, as you're saying, it would be a fire sale. It would be a bit like Stuff, wouldn't it? I mean, remember they bought Stuff for $1 to keep it going. That'd be the situation. It'd be a bit like that, you know. So just offloading the tens of millions of dollars of debt for nothing, but leaving all the infrastructure. So, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think the thing that stunned me as well as the reaction and the fallout to this is how the government it seems to have no realization what this does for the political landscape of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like absolutely no concept of it. Melissa Lee's comments are just the most tone deaf things I've ever seen. Yeah, just bizarre that they don't realize what a hole this is going to leave. And
also
fills a vacuum.
And also fucking Winston Peters talking about this is a disaster for democracy. I'm not saying it's Winston Peters' fault this has happened, but any of those comments that we've all seen online, which is like, aha, go woke, go broke, aha, they were the ones that were they were basically pushing the jab information and all. They're all his voters.
It's his crowd.
Yeah, that's his crowd. He has fomented this disdain by calling them the woke media and by the way he treats them in the hallway and basically calls them all liars. And it's not his fault this has happened, but he has got blood on his hands to an element that contributed towards the kind of reason that only 42% of people trust the news media. He's one of the reasons that only 42% of New Zealanders trust the news media. Because of the bullshit he goes, and then he has the fucking nerve to be talking about, it's a disaster for democracy. Maybe you should think about that before you actually poison the well of people understanding what the news media is actually there for, because that's what he's done. So he can fuck off as well.
Well, it also means that TVNZ is standing all the way out on their own. So for anyone that reckons the government should have nothing to do with public journalism.
Well, I actually also, believe it or not, I think for the first time in my life, watched a Mike's Minute from News Talk ZB this morning because it came out on my algorithm.
Jesus Christ, are you okay?
And I had to have a lie down afterwards and a cup of tea. But he did say something, which I'm not saying is right, but it's interesting. And that is when you have no one pushing you or no competition, complacency can come. The other thing that's concerning for TVNZ from us is that they've got no competition. They've got no competition now.
Did you just make me agree with Mike Hoskins?
That was my plan for tonight.
Fuck.
That was my plan for tonight. And I'll say it again. We've been saying this for a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years, when they started talking about, combining news, TVNZ and RNZ, is TV1 should go ad-free, non-commercial, and TV2 should be commercial. And if they had have done that a year ago, then the advertising spend could have been getting split between TV2 and TV3, right? But I think they should still do that, because I think that the other lesson in this is news is not profitable, but it's an essential thing for us to have in a democracy. So the BBCs of the world, the ABCs of the world, the TVNZs of the world, publicly funded broadcasters are essential. And let's have this conversation around them being the woke media. Like we said last night, no one ever says go woke, go broke about Taylor Swift, because it's a nonsense saying, absolutely nonsense. But it's just shown again how important it is to have a publicly funded, secure news media agency that doesn't have to reach for the clicks or the eyeballs, right? That's why Newshub failed. They didn't have enough eyeballs to pay for what they needed to do it. That's exactly what it is. So we have to have a group, a publicly funded group, that ignores the eyeballs. It doesn't matter, that just does the news. And that's why they're essential. Speaking of that, Chewy, let's look at the drop kicks that are in charge of it right now. Melissa Lee came out yesterday talking about pointing people towards Sky TV. Problem is with that, Minister Lee, who provides the news to Sky TV?
Minister Melissa Lee says she's taking the axing of Newshub seriously and admits she should have been more articulate when talking about it yesterday. Labor's criticised the minister's initial comments, including her pointing to Sky News as an alternative news outlet. She was asked about that comment in Parliament.
Is she aware of who produces Sky News or Sky News' New Zealand content?
Yeah. Sky News that I was referring to actually is produced by Newshub.
Melissa Lee says
it's produced by Newshub. It's produced by Newshub, Chewy. So therefore, when she said yesterday, it's commercial, people can find it elsewhere like Sky TV. Sky TV takes their news from Newshub, so they can't actually look to Sky TV. They can look to TVNZ, but that's about it. But the point is, as you can see on the screen, this bit here, the Media and Communications Minister did not know that. And these are the people in charge of the public broadcasting right now. Don't even know how it works. Sorry, I'm just yelling at the dog. That's why I don't mic myself. Get on your mat. Get on your mat. Lie down. Sorry. So I'll just get to the end of this because the story does continue.
Newshub.
Melissa Lee says while Newshub's closure will have flow-on effects for the local production industry, it's not the government's job to provide relief. And it's not just New Zealand. Warner Brothers Discovery is facing rocky times globally. For a bit of context, the media giant stable includes Warner Movies, think smash hit Barbie and current underperforming Aquaman, news channel CNN, pay TV network HBO, streaming service Max, the Food Network, HGTV, Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, and many, many more. Reports show the company's currently worth about $113 billion, including net debt of $70 billion. But it's tough. Warner Brothers Discovery's shares in the US.
So that means they're worth $43 billion. $43 billion. But I mean, that's pretty scary to have $70 billion net debt. Holy crap.
Have plunged 47% in the past year, just a few days ago, nearing a 52-week low. And it came after its quarterly earnings out last week showed weak linear TV advertising and underachieving movies. The company's chief executive saying these are challenging times for the multinational with a presence in most countries around the world.
So there's your first story on this, Chewy. I guess we've sort of passed a lot of opinions so far. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm going to show you something from the AM show this morning as well, which is the previous Minister of Broadcasting talking about what they did and what they could have done.
When I saw the first Aquaman movie, there wasn't a bone in my body that said, yeah, give me another one.
Really? You're not a fan?
So, not a fan. And I think if we can draw a straight line between Jason Momoa and the death of Newshub, maybe he should take some responsibility. Sorry, Jason.
So his movie was performing better Maybe we'd still have 2 news
maybe
agencies
our
in this
news would be
fucking
fine.
country. Yeah, Jason Momoa, you can go and wear your All Blacks jersey all you want, but if you did better at the box office, maybe we wouldn't be going back to the 1970s. Sure. I don't. No one send this to him. No one tag him. I do not want Jason Momoa to say that at all. At all. Joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. All right. Let's have a squiz at TV3 this morning. After they got themselves back together, Willie Jackson went on. Willie Jackson was asking about his role in this a little bit, or when he was the Minister of Broadcasting, what he did. And he's got a few comments around the current government and what they're doing as well. Let's have a listen.
Willie, I mean, you were Broadcasting Minister too under the former government. Do you think you did enough? Because we know that management went to you as well. They said, help us out with the Cordia transmission fees, help us out with Google and Facebook so that they're paying their way. Do you feel that you actually did enough for media?
I never think we do enough, but I know we've done a hell of a lot more than any other government in the last generation. In terms of Facebook and Google, I've got a fair digital bargaining bill that I put up that Melissa Lee opposes, and that would put $60 million back into the market. These are organisations making $200 and $800 million a year. They made that sort of money in 2022. This fair digital bargaining bill will help the Ashburton Guardian, will help our small players, will help yourselves. You have a government who won't support it. That is a huge bill. Will they support that? No. Well, did they rubbish us when we were trying to do public media, bring out a merger? Rubbish everything that we were doing. We've got a broadcasting.
This is a stupid question. Sorry, I don't mean to walk on the damage, but she basically asks, are you should maybe if you hadn't have spent all that money on the merger, TV3 wouldn't be closed. She doesn't quite say that, but it's a bit of a silly question.
We're reviewed.
Reflecting on that, Willie, do you regret the large amount of money that was used in investigating that merger? That was, money that was going into potentially trying to help media and actually just ended up down the drain.
You've got to put the investment in, Melissa, so that we can get a framework and get the support for people like yourselves. Absolutely no regrets. We've got a strategic framework in place that this government might want to use. We would have worked with, when Glenn came in August, the shame was it was a bit late. We were in campaign in September. They put a submission on the floor in terms of Cordia fees. We would have considered that. There's lots you can do. They should. Obviously, bailing out a $20 billion company who backs you guys in terms of Warners is not an option for a government. But wrapping our arms around you guys, I talked to Grant Robinson about this last night, and maybe looking for partners, looking for support, looking for interest, looking for investors. Maybe.
What was that, Willie? You want to help some media companies looking for investors? Really? Really, Willie? You want to get alongside some media companies and help them find some investors? That's an interesting thought.
Maybe that's a strategy going forward. So, if you want a new setup, you have to invest. That's what we were trying to do with the merger. It went down the tubes, but we gave $25 million a year to Radio New Zealand. We're reshaping the Broadcasting Act. We've got a fair digital bill on the table. We're working with people very closely. We reshaped Māori media. We put record investment in. We did a lot of things, Melissa. Ask the new Broadcasting Minister what she's going to do. Is there any plan? Is there any support for you guys?
We would love to. We did ask her to come on the program this morning, and we didn't hear back from Melissa Lee. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts. And
that's also pretty shocking, right? Melissa Lee ballsed it up yesterday, and she refused interviews today. The Broadcast and Communications Minister is refusing interviews about New Zealand going back to 1988 with only one major television network doing news. That's actually, I find that shocking. I mean, yes, she made a mistake yesterday, but there wouldn't have been necessarily, just blood on the floor when she came on. But to not be available at all for conversations, it's weak. It's weakness, actually, is what it is.
Yeah, the Broadcasting Minister, and this is just a seismic shift in the broadcasting nature of the country. Like, I agree with Willie there, though, partially. Like, it's a bad look for a government to bail out a huge multi-billion-dollar company.
Oh no, I think it's a double-edged sword, because it depends what the conditions are. Like in 2008, when the American government gave all that money to Ford and GM and that kind of stuff, they then paid them back. So I wouldn't agree with you that carte blanche, you should never do it. It would depend on the circumstances. Probably for this, there doesn't seem to be any money in media, so I don't know how the government would get their money back. But you know, I like I said, I mean, I know that we and everybody watching right now thinks you and I should run the country, Chewy. I know that. It's a heavy burden we carry.
Are you sure about that, chat?
Yeah,
I've been pretty clear how I'd run things.
100%.
There'd be some changes.
But if they had have just gone a real BBC in New Zealand, honestly, the money that would have freed up for other channels, it can't happen. I mean, even if it happened now, the 3's gone. So, you know, but whatever. Hey, I put the link a couple of times into chat for Discord. If you want to come and have a chat, we're going to do a story next on Nicole McKee making very strange, I'll call them points, about guns this morning on the AM show. But if you want to have a chat, as I said, anyone who chats to us tonight goes into the draw for a $50 voucher for the merch store. You just jump on Discord, which is here, and you go into the waiting room, which is here, down here, and you just wait there. And if you wait there, then after the next story, we will come and have a chat with you. And if there's no one in the waiting room, Chewy, we will have an early night. Ooh. An early night, which I doubt. Or else we'll find a tangent and be here till 1. One of those two things. Now, let's have a look at this, because this is a bizarre... I've watched this interview through once before, and I'm not quite clear what we're looking at. So let's have a look at it again together. Maybe you can help me. Because it seems like Nicole McKee is saying, we want to have more AK-47s to keep AK-47s, and I'm using that term, she doesn't say that term, to keep AK-47s out of the gang's hands. Now, the gangs get the AK-47s through illegal means. So if we bring them back and more legally owned AK-47s are out there, doesn't that just mean there's more for the gangs to steal and get a hold of and have? I genuinely don't understand the point she's making, which is, I think, maybe more on her than me. But I could be wrong. That sounds very arrogant. Let's have a listen to some of the conversation from this morning.
Our gun laws are in for a major shake-up. National and ACT have agreed to rewrite the Arms Act, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is off the table. So does that mean military-style weapons and semi-automatics are back? Joining us now is Associate Justice Minister Nicole McKee, who's in charge of firearm reform. Thank you for joining us, Minister.
Who receives funding for the NRA?
I was just about to say, you know how you always say that little line when I talk about old mate from Bombers show? And you always want to put that little tagline in there. Maybe what we should do, I mean, a number of lobbyists and people in the National ACT, New Zealand Fast Parliament that were previously lobbyists, maybe we should say that, same sort of the start of everything, previous firearms lobbyist. Would that be fair to say?
Yep.
This person?
This is what I was talking about yesterday, right? The conflicts of interest in this government are out the fucking gate. Yeah. It's just corruption. Yeah. Like, I was always on shaky ground about lobbyists anyway, but this is corruption.
Yeah. How about Belfast? Belfast child? How is she a minister? God, it's so embarrassing for this country. Yeah. Yep. And look, to be honest with you,
one step removed, right?
This is going to sound really arrogant and really horrible, but if she ever gets, and I'm not saying this of Lloyd, because he's in a different job. He's in a job of get him in, talk to him, get him out. If she ever sits in front of a Jack Tame or a decent interviewer journalist, I predict she is going to be found wanting on many things. I think you can just see it in her.
Can you explain what is wrong with the current laws that were passed by the previous government after the mosque terror attacks?
Look, sure, I can do that. But I just want to start off first, Lloyd, by saying, look, yesterday's news was absolutely devastating about Newshub. And I just want to do a bit of a shout out to you, Mel, and the rest of the team there. We're thinking of you and we wish you really well. It's a blow to democracy, and I just wanted to start off by saying that. But what we're looking at in regard to the arms legislation and what's failed is really having a look at gun crime and how it has increased substantially over the last...
So there's the first thing. gun crime has increased, so we're going to bring more guns back. I almost expected her to say, what we need to fight a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. And she doesn't say it, but the first part of the conversation to be talking about gun crime being high, they're going to bring, I'm lost from the first answer.
Few years, 2019 and 2020, we saw legislative changes that actually, sorry, just put this back in, legislative changes that actually have made New Zealand a less safe place. An example of this is gun crime has been on the increase by gang members alone. So between May...
Again, okay, so gun crime's been on the increase since gangs, so we want to bring back more guns. Like, honestly, I'm completely lost in this already. I'm not going to stop the interview yet, Chewy, but if you can help me, if anyone can help me, I would appreciate it.
No one can help you.
2022.
She is trying to link the post-Christchurch attack law changes directly to increased gun crime from gangs. Now, there's no link there. There is no link there at all. They banned military-style semi-automatic weapons. You look at what what's being taken away from the gangs and what's being used by the gangs. They're not military-style semi-automatic weapons. It's insane. The amount of guns that were taken out of the market as part of the amnesty and destroyed was momentous. And if she wants to then pivot to talking about law-abiding gun owners, if you are still sitting on a military-style semi-automatic weapon, you are no longer a law-abiding gun owner. You are someone that is breaking the law. You can't have it both ways.
The only way this logically makes sense to me is what she's saying is there's already these weapons out there, so therefore we need other people to have these weapons. Like, the only logical leap there is she's saying, you know, if other people want to fight back against, but that's what I'm saying. It sounds like she's about to jump into a Second Amendment tirade. You know, to protect ourselves, we want to have semi-automatic weapons and the right. It sounds like that's actually what's behind what she's saying, but what she's saying doesn't line up with that because we don't have a Second Amendment. So it just sounds like she's using the kind of arguments that you'd hear in America without this being America. Do you know what I mean? It's just bizarre.
Gangs aren't rolling around with a fully teched out AR-15. They're rolling around with sawed-off shotguns, hunting rifles that they've stolen, or that law-abiding gun owners have sold on the black market.
Yeah.
Or they've bought to order for the gangs because they can get a good price for them. Yeah. That's the pipeline.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to register, and I get it, there's some criticisms of a register, but she doesn't want one which would link illegal guns to law-abiding gun owners.
Although I do remember that we had one of the spokesmen for the police on last year who was very clear that getting rid of this proposed register would put more guns in hands of gangs. That's what they said to us in an interview last year. So we'll keep trucking through, eh? We'll see if we can make any logical leaps. I like the comment that I put up that she sprained something with that kind of logical leap, but we'll see what happens after the rest of this conversation.
Increase by gang members alone. So between May 2022 and the 17th of May 2023, we have had 2.8 firearm offences every single day committed by gang members.
And so again, how does that stop bringing back AR-15s? Like, what does bringing back AR-15s do for that? I don't know, but what does bringing them back do to that stat? What, the gangs are going to be scared of people because they might have AR-15s? That's what I'm saying. This feels very Second Amendment-y.
We had a Labor government that focused their Arms Act reform on the law-abiding, and they let the gangs run amok. This government is going to make sure that we focus on going after the gangs and respecting the law-abiding.
Because what the Labor Party and what a lot of...
See what I mean? It makes no sense. So we're going to focus. So hang on. So why are you changing the firearms laws? Why are AR-15s going to be more available? Because we're going after the gangs, and we're going to get the gangs because they're criminals. That sort of is not what we want to know. We want to know, why does someone need an AR-15 to go duck shooting or hunting in the bush or whatever people say that they're using it for? Not duck hunting. I know that'll be a shotgun, but you know, Like, that's actually why do we need, it's a little bit like what Chloe said about smoking. Who's asking for this? There's actually probably people who are asking for this one, and it would be good to find out who they are and how much they're paying. That would be an interesting thing to find out. A little bit more of this.
We want to reintroduce semi-automatic weapons, and these are weapons that are most commonly used in mass shootings that we've seen overseas. It's what happened in the Christchurch attack as well. Why do you want to reintroduce semi-automatic weapons?
I think we need to be clear in the first place, Lloyd, that I'm not reintroducing anything. Those firearms are already here. In fact, we have 6,600 people who have endorsements to be in possession of those firearms. So there's nothing new here. We are not going to be introducing any new types of actions or any new types of firearms into New Zealand. What we will be looking to do is ensure that we have a regulatory reform that ensures the safety of the New Zealanders, increases compliance with the legislation and reduces regulatory burdens on some.
Is there an ulterior motive here? Because you read between the lines of what the opposition parties say. Is there an ulterior motive here, or do you just want a good, solid Arms Act?
I come from a background of firearms safety, Lloyd. I ran my own business doing firearms safety around our rural and isolated communities, as well as in the cities. What we want to achieve, this is the government as a whole and as ACT as a political party, is a regime that actually goes about keeping New Zealanders safe, that includes everybody in the conversation about how we have good...
Except the gangs. Remember we had this last night. Everybody except the gangs.
Arms law, and then producing arms law that is enduring for the future, just like the 1983 Act was. That means everything needs to be on the table, the good, the bad and the ugly, so that pure and good conversations can be had to make sure we do get that enduring legislation.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I'm just, look, when I was in high school, I got my firearms license. I think it's all gone out. I used to use it for target shooting when I was there, but I don't remember. I fired about 3 guns in my life ever, and I don't know what it's all about. Yada yada yada. So I'm not into it. But it sounds like what she's saying is we need to change legislation. Everything's on the table now. That means any kind of gun. That means concealed permits are on the table, because that's anything. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go there, but when she says anything's on the table, that means anything's on the table. How does the idea of repealing and putting guns back in people's hands help gangs stop committing crimes with guns? You know what I can do lots of the times, Stewie? I can actually listen to an argument and go, I see what they're saying. Like, I don't agree with it, but I go, I can't even see what they're saying. I can't even follow it through.
No, because the pivot is I must talk about gangs as much as possible. Like, let's look at some stuff here. Police crack down on corrupt firearms holders diverting guns to gangs, and there's a picture of the guns that they've confiscated.
Yeah, shotties.
All of them are shotguns that you can buy with the simplest firearms license that any farmer would have, any duck shooter would have. Because that's all the gang needs. You know, they just want something to brandish or whatever. These aren't AR-15s. Like, the gangs, they're too expensive. They're too flashy. They don't make any sense. But yeah, gangs have found a more sophisticated way to get hands on guns, corrupting licensed firearms holders to source their firearms. Now, that's something that the firearms register would hopefully limit, you know. And then again, another story here, again, more examples of confiscated firearms.
Those look like 22s down the bottom. Yep.
Hunting rifles, cut down 22s, break action shotguns, that sort of thing. They don't really go for the flashy ones. And yeah, oh god. Jesus, Harold, sort it out. Police allege Auckland man who bought 18 guns and 2,500 rounds of ammunition was a straw buyer for a gang and other criminals. It's a law-abiding, licensed holding gun owner.
Yeah.
So if they were serious about cracking down the pipelines for firearms owners to sell guns to gangs, then you need a register and you need more checks on these firearms owners. You know, there's someone calling us out for not knowing a lot about guns. I'm firearms trained. So, and I've got a lot of friends that are hunters. One of the friends of the show has been talking to me about this law change. And, you know, I'm not saying that it's not an impossible thing to bring back for a very select group of people military-style semi-automatic weapons. Like the way that they have framed this as competitive shooters that compete in international competitions with these weapons want them back. Now, I don't think that's really a huge audience to go and change the entire law that we brought in, because
for those 9 people,
because you know, what was it? 57 people died when a license holding firearms owner who legally purchased all his weapons went into a mosque and murdered men, women, and children. And we kind of went, "Oh, that's a bit far." The firearms owner that I talked to about this sort of stuff went, even before the amnesty, I can't justify having these weapons around anymore. They're fun, I enjoy them, but I can't do it. That is a responsible gun owner. Now, part of the conversation that I've had with him this week sort of resolves around the fact of if they change this law and bring it in for sports shooters, they can't keep these weapons in their home. That they've got to be locked away at a gun club that they're registered at and lock and key. And they can't go down there themselves and get them out. Sure, if those sort of checks and rules are around, I pretty much don't have a big problem with it coming back. But it's that legal creep of, oh, well, we were doing it for the sports shooters, but now it's not fair if we don't allow this person. And now they're out there. And the more they're out there, the more they can disappear, the more they can get stolen, the more that they can be sold by people that don't have ethics.
It's real simple. I mean, just look at it. Use a ridiculous example. If there was literally no guns, if there literally was not a single gun in this country, right? Not one anywhere. How many would the gangs have? None. Not literally not one in the country. If there was 10 times as many legal guns in the country as there is right now, how many would the gang have? And the answer is much more than what they've got right now. Much, much more. So, I don't know.
Like, hey, New Zealand as a population has a lot of firearms because we're a nation of hunters, right? That really skews things. But then the cops have got to get better at policing it. Like that was something that came out of the inquiry, that people weren't checking in on license holders. They weren't checking in on sales. There needs to be more oversight on gun sellers.
Yeah.
There needs to be a register. The register needs to be safe and secure for everyone's benefit. And I think that the yardstick for maybe we'll bring back AR-15s, that yardstick needs to be incredibly high, really, really high. Like if someone can clear all those hurdles, can prove that they're a fit and proper person, completely mentally stable, don't seem to have a deep and abiding hatred for one segment of our population, it's under lock and key and 3 people have to see them use it, that sort of thing, sure. Do I trust that minister to do a good job on that? Absolutely not.
Fair.
No trust at all.
Fair. All right, listen, let's just say thanks to a few of these people for their super chats, and then we're going to open up Discord. So it's going to happen next, and if you want to be a part of it, oh gosh, we're already into an hour, so we'll just take a few calls. Peter for the $2 late fee, thanks for that, appreciate that. Frosty says, late fee, iwi-owned radio stations are a great example of locally run radio stations, like as in ones operated outside of Auckland. The technician thinks we should become BHN Hub. Big Hairy News Hub. Yeah, we had that last
I think it's actually pronounced Bahin Hub.
Bahin Hub. And finally, I don't know what this one is. Is Ring of Power from Amazon. Ring of Power for Amazon was not so much of a success as they let on either.
Yeah, that was that Lord of the Rings series where it looks like everybody had bought their costumes from a $2 shop.
Yeah.
It was dreadful.
Yep. Got ya. All right, so I'm going to just do this one more time because the thing about Discord is it tutus with the you never know which is quite the right URL to get involved. So here we go, boom, 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 and I put forward Discord one more time in the chat. And if you want to be a part of this, you just head across the Discord, jump into the waiting room, and then we can have a chat. So we've got a few people waiting there now. Let us go and now remember, if you're in Discord and you're waiting for us, YouTube off, speakers off, listen to us through if you're using it on a phone or if you're using it with your through your computer or however you're doing it, you have the YouTube feed off, the computer feed off, and just listen to us through whatever it's called, Discord. Let's say hello to JK, see if JK's around. Oh, what do we do? Oh no, I drag it down there, don't I? There we go. I forgot myself. Are you there, JK?
Kia ora.
Kia ora. We can hear you.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say this before I saw Kiera82 say it in chat. The next step is going to be, hey, we need to arm the police because there's so many semi-automatic guns out there.
Yep, there you go. There you go. And interesting point. What else have you called in for today, JK?
Also, if you need a semi-automatic gun to hunt, then you really should be nowhere near the public with a gun.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
What are
really
you talking
bad
about?
Shot.
5.56 is a perfect caliber for hunting deer.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it with one shot, or you should probably not be hunting.
Yep. Anything else tonight, JK? It was just a quick one.
Just a quick one.
All right, mate.
I'll let someone else do it. If I win the draw, give it to Kiera82.
Okay, we will do that for you. Thank you for being involved and having a chat with us. Frosty's actually in there as well. Frosty, hello there.
Kia ora, fellas.
Kia ora.
How are we doing today?
I mean, I'm physically doing okay. Mentally, it's always a bit different. It's been an interesting week in the news, let's put it that way, but I'm fine. How about you? What about you, Chewy?
Yeah, I was talking about this with one of my workmates today of just how overwhelming this flood of bullshit is over the last couple of weeks. And the question was, how do I deal with it? And I said, I have a podcast and I yell at people. That's how I solved that problem.
Oh, that's mean. I was just wondering about the whole Newshub thing. Is there not a potential chance that Warner Brothers is trying to pull out of New Zealand, like as a whole, but they're doing like a scorch the earth policy? You know, they just get rid of everything and then they leave the country. It was just a thought.
I mean, I guess nobody knows the answer to that, but I would lean towards no, because basically if you have an outpost somewhere in the world that just costs you next to nothing to run because all you're doing is feeding your stuff to it from international, but you can get advertising revenue back for it, that would seem to be a pretty sound business plan. You know what I mean?
I guess, but didn't they have enough advertisers? Like, they didn't have enough advertisers in order to keep Newshub running.
Well, but the thing is, Newshub, as we've heard, is 300 people. Like 300 people, you're looking to $30 to $50 million just in salary. Get rid of all of those and you leave 10 people there who are the technicians around the country who work in the broadcast room, and you have sales reps, and all of a sudden your running costs go from $80, $100 million a year to a couple of million. And a couple of million a year back in revenue of advertising is much easier than having to cover $100 million of revenue a year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And I had a second thought about that. What if Newshub or something along those lines gets bought out, like Warner Brothers bought TV3 from MediaWorks? Is that not a possibility either?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, as we were saying earlier, I don't know if you heard us talking about Stuff, but Stuff was sold to Sinead Boucher for $1 because the debt that Stuff was carrying made it not worth anything. That's pretty much the same as Newshub. And I wonder if that's why they've announced it 4 or 5 months out. So someone internationally or someone locally can go, there's a free news network going over there.
Sky, as Melissa Lee said.
Yeah, something. So that's possible as well. And I think that's probably why they say technically this is a proposal, although I think the only reason it doesn't happen is if someone else actually buys them. What do you think, Chewy?
Yeah, like it's interesting. I can't see the play. I don't understand. Yeah, the dramatic pulling of the pin, the obvious, like, we're out. It does seem like an offer to buy. Like,
or else they do what Today FM did. We're shutting down from now. It's gone. They didn't do that. They basically advertised their closing down. So that probably is maybe someone can take it off their hands.
Yeah. This is a really cynical take or pessimist. Is that what if Murdoch or something like that comes in and buys it? Because Warner Brothers doesn't care who buys it. It's whoever gives them the best offer.
Yeah.
That's two of us that have said that now.
Yeah.
We get the third one and it happens.
He might be listening and you might get
I know, we're jinxing it.
Yeah.
Better shut up.
All right, Frosty. Hey, thanks for giving us a call, mate. We appreciate hearing from you.
See you, fellas. Thanks for having me.
All the best, man. We've got a few people in there, so we'll just we'll keep the conversation. And listen, let me say this: we're not looking for a scrap, but if you're someone who lurks, who has different and opposing views from us, we welcome your call as well. We're always respectful if you're respectful, but we often, everyone has a bit of an echo chamber, and we typically have conversations with people who we seem similar to. Feel free, don't be shy. You can come on board. I think this is a person we've never spoken to, so let's grab them, shall we? Green Goose, is that you? Hello, come in.
Kia ora korua. Can you hear me?
Can do. What's up?
Oh, awesome. Kia ora koutou chat as well. How's it going?
Have we ever spoken to you before?
No, you haven't. First time jumping into this.
First time caller, long time listener. Thanks for calling, mate.
Yeah. I've been watching since your coverage during the election last year. It was really good.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I guess I had a couple smaller things to mention and one bigger thing. I'm not going to go near like criticizing the government or anything like that, just because of my job. But one thing I thought was really interesting recently that maybe ties a lot of things you guys talk about is this coverage by RNZ on the election spending by third-party groups.
Yeah.
Which I think increased by about 2 million between 2020 and 2023. So, you've got your taxpayer unions and your Hobson's Pledge and Groundswell pretty much outspending groups like the CTU 3-1. And I guess, the issue there is that it's not really transparent and you don't see who their donors are. And the way I see it, it's pretty easy for groups like the tobacco, fossil fuel, whatever to, they you never know who if funding's coming from them, and it's no wonder that you see the government scratch their backs. It's kind of, I don't know. That's just kind of, I don't know if you guys see any connection there, but I'm just not sure about that, and I guess that connection. I don't know if you guys have seen much about the third party spending at the last election.
I don't know. I have to do more research. I'm not sure about the connection between that and what's happening right now. But yeah, it's a concern. We're advocates of getting money out of elections altogether. There are still some problems with that, because how do you then fund political parties publicly and make it fair? If the bigger parties get the biggest amount of funding, then they also have the biggest advantage to get re-elected. We all know that the people who spend the most tend to get elected, so it's not quite as black and white as we'll fund them. There are questions as well, but certainly that third party interest needs to figure out a way to make that as little impact as possible. And I think, unfortunately, losing a massive media agency today or this week does not make for a easy way to keep the public informed. What it does do is makes an easier way for more people to get sucked. I nearly said sucked off. That would have sounded wrong. Sucked down into rabbit holes that they can't come back from of getting mis and disinformation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, the Newshub closures pretty quite a big blow to the media. I mean, I know a wee bit about kind of, Google and Meta have been impinging on their advertising dollars, all that kind of thing, scraping all their
they
stories,
get so
that
much
kind
for
of thing
free.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's,
unregulated, fucking just asset grab, basically.
Yeah, and I think last year media companies were allowed to bargain with some of the big tech companies, but probably the legislation or whatever they allowed them to do didn't go far enough. I know did Willie Jackson mention in that story before he was putting a bill forwards.
Yeah, I understand from talking to some people who are actually involved with the presentations to government that I think it might be NZME cut themselves off and they went and did their own deal. And so it actually made it weaker for everyone else. If it wasn't NZME, I withdraw and apologise. One of the groups in New Zealand cut their own deal, and that made the sum total of it harder to do because it wasn't a united front all of a sudden. But
Pat,
cheers for your call, Green Goose. We appreciate that.
Are you suggesting that collective action is a superior way forward?
I'd never say that. Capitalism.
Words in your mouth. The thing that I found really interesting in the run up to the election is actually one of our Patreon supporters is part of a lobby group.
Oh yeah.
So I got to see some of that process of what it takes to form a lobby group. So Mr. Rob Burney is part of the Better NZ Trust,
right?
Which is promoting EV vehicles. So that's where I get a lot of my information there from. But it's like you can spin up a lobby group and you register as a lobby, and if you're spending money advertising in an election who might be better for this particular special interest, you have to register. The problem is when you get someone like the TPU that is not for taxpayers or a union, is spending their money on other groups that they're spinning off and trying to make them look like organic grassroots movements. I think I'm getting pretty good at spotting them now, but there was that group that was supposedly about dairy owners going out of business if there were any changes to the tobacco laws. Taxpayers union behind that. Groundswell, taxpayers union behind that. Stop Three Waters, taxpayers union behind that. So when you have that sort of money floating around, and these guys are just spinning up group after group after group after group to avoid scrutiny and accountability, and they're just trying to bend the field in their favor, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Money in politics is a problem.
Yep. All right. Speaking of money and politics, friend of the show, who is often shouting Greens to the rooftops, is Politikiwi. Politikiwi, good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you lads doing so far?
We're doing all right, actually. How you doing?
Good, bud.
Yeah, all right. I'm not going to lie, I have come in here to pick a little bit of a fight because I just had a bit of a disagreement there about some of the takes around the firearms bills. Not that you would ever find me backing national in terms of its regulation, but
right,
I just think...
Let's hear it. What is it?
So, okay, first point I took look, the framing you had there about the idea of when we're talking about firearms and crime, I feeling like you were getting sucked into national talking points there with the idea of, if we had no firearms, gangs would have no firearms. If we have more firearms, continuing scale, gangs will have more firearms. I felt like that was really wildly simplistic and unnuanced here.
But I also think it's true. Are you saying are you saying though, if we had 1 million new legal firearms in the country, gangs wouldn't see a percentage of those by getting them illegally?
Okay, what I'm saying there is that gangs can only hold so many firearms. What we're seeing here, what we'll see is a margin of scale. If we have 100 firearms, we might see gangs having 10. If we have 1 million firearms, gangs might only have 1,000. The scale won't necessarily increase to the same extent that firearm ownership does.
But that's a different point. But you are saying that they'll have more. That's all I said.
Yeah, but it's the framing of just we should be concerned about the scale rather than the type of ownership. Because one of the things we can see in general when we have industries that are larger is that they're more regulated and there is less margin for engaging with criminal activity, right? If you have these big corporate interests, like you consider a store like Walmart, they have when they sell firearms in the United States, they have no desire to kick back to criminal organizations because they could get regulated to high hell and their $1 million CEOs are going to get in trouble. Gary down the road, who runs his, who's just managing his one hunting and fishing store, has a lot more reason to interact with the local gang, and maybe, some firearms fell off the back of the van being in transit and that sort of thing. It's just, I think, because what I wanted to get at is that one of the things I think is really critical to the firearms debate is that the right has a monopoly on firearm owners, right? The right is the one who claims ownership of firearm owners, and they're the only ones who act like they can speak for firearm owners and present a single type of firearm ownership, right? The idea of the individual firearmer, keeping it in their ute, keeping it in their house, locked, for family protection, home defense, that sort of thing. Whereas, historically, the left wing has had a pretty big ownership of firearms. Karl Marx, 1850, was talking about, under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered, and any attempt to disarm the people must be stopped by force if necessary. 1850, different time. But we can recognize that we've let the right, to some extent, take the idea of firearm ownership as this big, masculine, individualistic energy, when firearms are a tool, and a tool that should be well monitored and regulated. I would fear much more an unaccountable, largely unregulated firearm owner with a shotgun than a trackable, registered, regularly tested, mentally checked upon firearm owner with a semi-automatic rifle. Because what we're talking about is regulation. And I think, if anything, like even with the media's presentation on semi-automatic firearm owners versus the firearms register, which is way more concerning. Untrackable firearms, we're just going to descend back into more crime.
No, look, I don't actually think, I don't think you were saying anything that Chewy and I would disagree with, in theory.
No,
but
I agree.
Yeah, but the way you've just said it, and I wrote down regulation, and you use the phrase, someone checked up on often, that's not what you're going to get under this government. You're going to get more of them saying these are law abiding, so leave them alone. So I think we agree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't know why anyone wouldn't agree with what you're saying, but I also don't think that's what they're going to bring in.
Absolutely. But when we're having this conversation, what we've had right now is we have National saying, we want to bring in the firearms on our terms, and then we have an opposition saying, no, just blanket no. No, we don't want to engage with it. We're not seeing an alternative proposed on the left. People who want to own firearms aren't being sold two narratives. They're being sold one and a rejection of that, right? Yeah. We should be thinking about different ways we could own firearms in this country. I think Chewy brought up the idea of community firearm ownership. That's had massive success in foreign companies. Countries, not companies. Jesus, I'm getting corporate already. We can look at how Scandinavians own their firearms, how the Canadians even have considerably less firearm crime and a lot of blooming firearms. There are ways we can own firearms, and this is a point we shouldn't just concede to the right, because God knows they have enough toxic masculine energy as it is. We don't need them to be owning AR-15s.
Yeah. Fair points.
I think
all good points.
I think getting to community ownership, and there's a comment in the chat there that the Christchurch shooter had a firearms license, purchased and owned those firearms legally. He was a law-abiding firearms owner up until the day he wasn't.
Yeah.
And we have to look at, so what are the steps that we could do to stop that from happening again? Obviously, restricting the weapons that he used. Is there a legitimate use case for semi-automatics? Yes, there is, but it's incredibly small. So, I mean, I made a comment about 5.56 not being a great round for hunting deer. It is a great round for hunting feral goats, which I'm all for wiping out. So, maybe those people could be licensed, as I believe, and I'm happy to be corrected here, licensed pest control guys can still have AR-15s, I think.
And there you go. All right. We're going to move on politically. Thanks for your thoughts, though, because they're always good. Appreciate you giving us a call. Let me drag across, I think, another new name. I'm old. I think it's Uncle Barney. Are you ready to talk to Uncle Barney? We're going to talk to Uncle Barney now. Uncle Barney, are you there? Turn your mic on and say hello.
You there?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody brilliant.
G'day, Uncle Barney. How are you?
Oh, hold up.
Yeah,
I am here.
You got to turn the YouTube feed off, because it will confuse you. Speak to us, Barney.
You there?
Yep, we're here, man. We're still here. We haven't gone anywhere.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry, I'm just trying to put you on speaker so I can hear you properly.
Yep. What's up? What you calling us for?
Oh, just about the news hub.
Yep.
You know, it's quite sad. And, you know, sorry, just a few seconds. Sorry. You there?
Yeah, we still haven't gone anywhere.
Oh, cool. Well, anyway, something interesting about Warner Brothers. You know, Warner Brothers that owns News Hub, of course.
Yep.
They're actually up for sale in November. Oh no, in April of this year.
Do you mean the mother body, the mother company? All right.
So as of April, Discovery will be selling Warner Brothers.
Okay. So they might be asset stripping to try and make their books look better.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Right.
That's where I'm thinking. And it's quite sad because you've got this fella that is running the company from the States, okay? And, you know, it's been crazy over there what he's doing. As you can see what the price is of just the company, how much they're in debt and everything. You know, it's going into the ground, sadly, you know.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I didn't know that. So if that is the case, then that does make quite a bit more sense as to why they're getting rid of it.
And it's a sad point from, like, you look at the TVNZ one, like, article, you know, at the end how they were talking about the box office lows.
Yep.
And the budgets and the money and all that. You know, no one's really bringing up the fact of, you know, well, they're up for sale in April.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you're up for sale in April, you got to cut your loose ends if there is loose ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point, Uncle Barry. We'll leave it there. Thank you for your call. You're in the draw for some merch there. We appreciate that. And this will be the last call of the night to Rajan. I always got to get you to remind me how you pronounce your handles.
Rajan.
Rajan.
You got it right.
Rajan. There you
Nice.
go. G'day, sir.
Guys.
How are you?
Kia ora, not too bad.
Hey, bud.
Actually got two stories to talk about out of the US, mainly in regards to the genocide in Gaza. Did you guys see the Michigan primary results yesterday?
I saw that Trump won. Was it 60-40?
Well, I didn't really pay much attention to the Republican one, but
Okay.
I'm looking at the results now. But yeah, it looks like Trump got 68%
Yeah.
and Nikki Haley got 27. But the Democratic primary is quite interesting because Biden did win. He got about 81%. I'm looking at the results now, 99% reporting. But there was a big campaign in Michigan to get people to vote uncommitted in the primary. And looking at the results there, they got 13%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 101,000 votes. And when you look at the results for the general election in 2016 and 2020, in 2016, Hillary lost to Trump by 10,000 votes, and then Biden won in 2020 by about 154,000.
And that was over four. So I thought it was 77,000 over 4 counties or something, but a very low number.
Yeah, very low number. And again, like this is the primary, which usually has far lower turnout than the general. So yeah, no, like the main thing the main reason why most people seem to vote uncommitted was because of Biden's handling of the genocide in Gaza, or lack thereof. So yeah, it seems like they've really laid down the gauntlet and said basically, you got two options, Biden. You can either call for a ceasefire, stop funding Israel, or lose. Because yeah, it looks like at the moment, like he's going to need to win Michigan in order to win the presidency again.
Yeah, it's I keep quite a close eye on most of it over there. Certainly, watching it in my feed every single day, and the whole thing about the progressive left not being happy with Biden right now because of Gaza, but then you've also got half of Nikki Haley's voters saying they'll never vote for Trump no matter what. And so if she's getting 30% of the vote, that's 15% of the people who won't vote for Trump no matter what. And it's probably going to come down to who sucks the lemon more. Will it be Haley's voters who want to suck the lemon more, or will it be those progressives who want to suck the lemon more? That might be the deciding of it. I do have to say as well, lots of research around if Trump gets convicted, independents are not keen to vote for a felon. That could go the other way. And RFK Jr. has officially just put his hat in the ring, and you've got a whole bunch of right-wing conspiracy theorists who will vote for him. So I said last year, if Biden runs, Biden loses. I don't think it's that cut and dry anymore. I think that there's a good chance that Biden could win it. I also think there's a 20-30% chance that Biden still doesn't run. There's a little bit of conversation going on around that at the moment.
Well, two things I wanted to say on that. Well, you said it's mostly progressives that would have been voting non-committed. Well, Beto O'Rourke surprisingly also endorsed the uncommitted campaign, and he was one of the main people, if you remember, back in 2020, who dropped out right before Super Tuesday and coordinated Biden as like the main centrist candidate. And now even he's saying, he's gone too far. So there's a lot of people and I've seen like a lot of people who seem to be pretty big Biden supporters who are now saying, nah, I can't support him anymore. Like even people that weren't supporting Bernie necessarily.
The problem, obviously, and look, I think I've become a person that values a vote, even if it means that you're going to get the result because no politician deserves your vote. However, we still have to go, if those people are going to stand on their principles, they increase the chances of a Trump second turn. So that's like a Sophie's choice. Without question.
Fair point, but I would also say if Biden loses, it's completely on him for this.
Oh yeah, no question, and that goes to the geopolitical outlook that America's got over Israel, and the incestuous relationship they've got. That comes back to the evangelical Christians having to have Israel be the chosen people, be protected. It's pretty ugly overall.
Okay, got one last thing. Sorry to take up so much. Take up so much time. Have you guys heard of a guy called Aaron Bushnell?
Yes.
Doesn't ring a bell to me. Chewy has. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aaron Bushnell was I'm reading off of Google here. Aaron Bushnell, a 25-year-old serviceman of the United States Armed Forces, committed an act of self-immolation outside the front gate of the embassy in Israel in Washington, D.C.
Yes, I saw
that. He did a live stream where he filmed himself setting himself on fire, and during that you could hear him like screaming "Free Palestine" while he was on fire, and a fucking cop pulled a gun on him while he was on fire, by the way.
Then he kicked in. Something's
and then he
rolled down.
Yep. Yeah, and then he died a few hours later, I believe, in a hospital. And yeah, I mean, it's like I certainly don't condone what he did, but I also respect it, honestly.
So, also, it's the second person to set themselves on fire outside of an Israeli embassy.
Yes.
Last couple of months.
Yes.
What I found really interesting is what he'd written on his Facebook page. That he said, if you ever wondered how people behaved during the Holocaust, look at how you're behaving now.
Yeah, I see.
I think I've horribly misquoted that, but if you wondered how you would have behaved during the Holocaust, what are you doing now? Is how you would.
Yeah, I've also got an article up with his last words, and I won't read the whole thing, but he said something like, "What I'm doing may seem crazy, but it's really not. But it's nothing compared to what people in Gaza are having to deal with."
Yeah,
quote mining him, but you get the idea.
It's funny the respect that's given. I mean, it's not that I don't respect someone's conviction to go to that point. I just hope that what he does achieves the outcome that he wanted it to. Because if it doesn't, I hope whatever he was envisaging he was going to get out of that act, he got.
Well, I think that's just why it's on us to, share his last words and make sure his story is not doesn't fall on deaf ears at this point.
Yeah, I guess it's when you say it's on us, I guess that's the thing is that, if he hadn't done it, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be saying those stories. So,
yes.
Pretty extreme, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
I found the actual quote many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery or the Jim Crow South or apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing genocide? The answer is you're doing it right now.
Wow. All right, Rajan, thank you very much for jumping on there. That was a nice little pull. Now, as always, Chewy, I've written down, we had 6 people there. I've written them down in no particular order. You pick a number, so it's not like the first caller is not number 1, the second one. So I've moved the names around. So pick a caller between 1 and 6, please.
9. I fucked it up. 4.
It is Green Goose at number 4. So Green Goose, you've just won yourself a $50 voucher to the merch store. You will need to, if you want to see your merch in this week's order, then you will need to get a hold of us. Easiest way to do it is probably just to go through the email, bighearingnews@gmail.com. And reminding you, our merch store is open at the moment. And if you want to get an order in for tomorrow, then you need to visit it before 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. BHN tops, BHN hoodies, BHN personalised gear there as well. And of course, the new Buffer series. If you're new to us and you don't know what that is, then go and click on the Buffer thing at bhnshop.nz, and the video there will explain to you exactly what it is. bhnshop.nz. And thank you very much if you've already bought merch. It really helps out. It really helps support us, and it goes towards the costs we incur to do this as well. Not quite as high as Newshub, but getting there, Chewy.
We don't have Tova's coffee budget. Remember that. That's the killer.
I just read something. Now I haven't set this up, so I'm. This is just a little side note. Let's have a look at this super quick. This is about Newshub, and I'm thinking about Sinead Boucher. It's stuff, but senior reporters to make proposal to save Newshub. A group of senior Newshub journalists will be meeting next week to discuss a proposal to present to Warner Brothers Discovery in an effort to save their news operation in some form.
They're going to be a co-op.
Speaking with the Herald today, investigations reporter Michael Morris said the announcement made yesterday by international owners Warner Brothers Discovery to completely close Newshub's operation by the end of June was a bombshell. When the email came out, yada, 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 yada. That's just really following through of the whole story. So there you go. So as we've been saying, could there be a way out of this? That's probably why they've announced it with a 4-month lead, and so people can get around and do a Sinead Boucher or do a Fox NZ or whatever they want to do. Mind you, if there was a Fox NZ, it'd be quite good for our show. It would just give us more content. I mean, it wouldn't be good for the country. Don't get me wrong. It'd be quite good for us, though.
But we're in it for the show. That's it.
All right, guys. Now remember,
as the country burns around us.
Well, remember, please, if you are a paid patron, we appreciate you to bits, and we do have a meetup, and I've changed it. The meetups we've done recently have been 11 a.m. on Saturdays. I've made it 1 p.m. this Saturday. I just thought we'd do it a bit later, just to see if other people can make it along. Not that we don't love the people who have visited us previously, but if you are a paid patron and you'd like to come and say g'day to us, you'll have a message in your inbox. If you've become a paid patron, since I sent that message out, you will get one. So basically, if you become a paid patron before midnight on Friday, you will get an invitation to come to the conversation. Even if that invitation comes out on Saturday morning, there will be one there if you become a paid patron before midnight Friday. So within about 25 in the next 25 and a half hours, if you become a patron, you'll be invited on along as well. So we look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday afternoon, and I think that's it for me, Chewy. I think we're done for the week, and we'll be back Monday night from 9 p.m. Is there any terrific tangents you want to take us out for another 9 hours?
No, I just really like our short and punchy Thursday night shows. It's good, in and out, early non-eyes.
I know. You kind of
90-minute show.
If no one's going to come on Discord, we'll have an early one. And in the back of your head, you're kind of going, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But it was fun. Thanks for the calls tonight. That was great. And who won? Who did I say? Oh, Green Goose. Big Hairy News at gmail.com. And just tell me whether you want a T-shirt and which one and what size. Just go to bhnshop.nz. Or if you want a hoodie, I will make a promo code for you to give you a $50 discount, and then I'll send it to you and you can order it, and just do it before 9 a.m. tomorrow morning and you'll get it sent to you next week, although they'll still be available next week as well. All right, I think that's us, Chewy. Thanks, team. Enjoyed having you guys here. Sad week. All the love and support to our Newshub colleagues and friends, and I'm quite looking forward to seeing, I mean, maybe what they're going to do, maybe the proposal is going to be Big Hairy News from 6 till 7 each night, and then And then, I don't know, Ask Paddy. Is that what this show's called? Ask Paddy? Is he an agony aunt or something? What's it called?
Paddy's got problems.
Paddy's got problems. It could be.
But it'll be a sitcom under my leadership.
Wow, wow. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Been a great week. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you Monday night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Unless you're a paid patron and you want to come hang out 1 p.m. on Saturday, we will see you there. That's it for me. Remember, come back on Monday night. Bring a friend. Until then, hooroo.
Mate wa.